Hello and welcome to another weekly live stream. This time we're going to be messing with moon gates, which is a little bit of a spoiler on its own. We'll talk a little bit about what I've done this past week while I was on vacation. Sorry, my nose is running and I'm trying to kind of clean that up. So if you heard lots of scruffling against the mic, that's what that was. Let's thank the patrons. You guys rock. I don't know if this is 100% up to date because I haven't had a chance to check in the last week, and Patreon has stopped notifying me about that. So if you have joined and you're not on here, I apologize. I will add you over before next time. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We'll talk about what I'm going to do. I'm trying to, how do I get rid of, there we go, close, there we go. So this says I'm not streaming. I am streaming. Okay, cool. We'll make that minimized. Move this down. So I'm trying to do this to be entertaining and a little enticing and not provide too many spoilers. Suffice to say, there will be something called moon gates, and there will be a way to like teleport from these old ruins to a different old ruins. So the idea being that, once you're up here, there'll be some mechanism to teleport and some reason that you can and can't at different times. And I don't want to get too much into that. There'll be, books and lore around the world that talk about how that happens. But the couple things need to happen to make it work. And one is, well, the big one, and I think the one we're going to work on tonight, is that when you jump from one portal to another, the world has to load in, and so there's a period of time where things look like garbage, or you could even be standing on what looks like open space. And so I want to have this portal blindness effect so that when you go through the portal, initially you have like this foggy blindness that sort of recedes as things load in. And I'm sort of, in a sense, continuing on last week's work where we did stuff with the fractals, because I'm going to use that same noise texture to maybe play with some effects that would cloud the vision and also interact with the depth of the scene and so on. But the other things I need to do is make the effect of sort of when the moon gate is active, when the player stands on the pedestal, there's going to be some other activation, and the actual gates that they would jump through, I have to implement all those kind of effects and the triggers behind it. And so the neat part about this is that the game has some rudimentary triggers already, but to do that I'll have to be enhancing them a bit more. What I worked on this week was fixing bugs mostly. Last weekend I did a lot of optimization on, when you cross the borders of things and new butterflies, we won't see it here. This is a neat desert world, by the way. It's like, this portal happens to be in the middle of the desert, which I think is kind of cool. I think deserts look really neat. This world, Seed 2024-1027. I spend a lot of time optimizing the encounter generation when you move around the world. It's still, on my system at least, I still lose a couple frames, but they're spread over some period of time instead of all at once. And now the other thing I found performance related, I was running around a lot, and I noticed that the physics thread was bogging down. It was starting to take sometimes 5 to 10 frames just to do a physics frame, and then I noticed, oh well, there's many hundreds of active bodies, and that's because we were leaking butterflies and birds, and so I had like hundreds and hundreds of butterflies and birds around me, which was kind of neat, but it did cause lag as I went from zone to zone. So I fixed that leak, and then even like added some anti-leak stuff into the engine. So yeah, last weekend was a lot of deep debugging and adding systems to help me track performance and leaking resources like that, and to have a mechanism to mark a resource as something that shouldn't live beyond the run of the engine, so they get automatically cleaned up and so on. So everything's more robust because of that. What else did I do? I can look at actually my master task list and see. Yeah, so I did a bunch of stuff with the world generation. So let me show that too. So I'll X out of the game for that. So this is the first few minutes where I'm letting people join. Of course, it says there's only one, but that's okay. It's the day after a holiday here in good old United States. So the old, when you generate a world before, the old preview was just very basic. It would show you where the landmass was, where the water was. And this is like a huge area. It's like 32 square kilometers. So the actual map view you get is just like which is already pretty large, 16 by 16 square kilometers. So it's 32 by 32, something like that. But now when you create a world, I added this random button so you can pick a random seed. And then when you preview it, it's a slightly better view, and it also fills in, like if there's ice sheets, you'll see ice sheets, and if there's desert, you'll see desert. This can be really good if you don't want to spawn into the world where you're in the middle of a desert. For example, I know that this seed has, you spawn in basically right at the edge of a desert, so you can see this is kind of yellowish, and as you go north it gets more and more desert. There's one, I think, that you spawn in the middle of an ice sheet. I guess that's 0. Yeah, so World Seed 0, you actually spawn in the middle of an ice sheet, and you got to realize your player map zoomed out maximum covers about this much space, so it really is many, many days of travel of ice. And so I can see people wanting to join a world like that and deal with the challenges inherent, and the world will try, the world generation will try to make it balanced, but I can also see players be like, nah man, I don't want to join a world on an ice sheet. The other thing is I made it so that you can you do random text here, whatever you want, my dog has fleas or whatever, and it will turn that into a seed. That's interesting. We get like neat desert there carved out of a little bit of ice sheet here. So anyway, little desert island down there. So that's one thing I worked on, is I kind of beefed this up and beefed up the image previews. The other thing is, so now let's just call this 2024-11-29 live stream. So if we were to create this world, we're right on the edge of an ice sheet. So we generate. So one thing I added is it automatically starts generating the world while you're in the character creator. So, well, for one thing, I don't know why this hangs. There's a, I need to look into that. There's a point in the finding the spawn position where it hangs for a minute. Well, not a minute, but long enough to be concerned. At any rate, once we're here on the character screen creating our character, you can see it's already pre-generating the world. And this is what I was talking about before, how it would be nice to, while you're creating your character, and reading about all the things, and eventually, there'll be the 7 races. Humans, dwarves, reptilian, 2 types of reptilian, Pantherians, avians, yes, and elves, yes, so 7, I think. Simians, maybe there's 8. Anyway, there'll be a lot more races, and so I can imagine the player wanting to read about them and decide, and then perhaps then they want to, there's going to be stats and, things that you can add to your character and so on and so forth. And they'll do some stuff, personalization and so on and so forth. And so while that's happening, the world is already loading and generating. And the other thing is that maybe off to the side, or as part of your character creation, one of the things you can do is select how much world lore you want to know, and it'll add a couple facts to your character sheet that you already know when you're going into the game, like stuff about nearby towns and points of interest. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump in for a second. I think that's it. That's all I wanted to show. But it's this should go faster because we've been generating the whole time. Hey Ron, how's it going? And you'll see that, you know, from a normal jump of, you know, basic world generation, we get into the world much quicker because it was generating that whole time we were, you know, futzing around and creating our character. And actually there's a neat thing I just added for my local version. Yeah, so this part could be better. So anyway, the other thing I added, oh yeah, we're like on a mountaintop, like not ice. That's interesting. Oh, lots of towns nearby. This is a cool seed. I may have to explore this later. I've been messing around, so with the Moongate stuff, you know, I've been trying to say, you know, how many Moongates were generated and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, you can't scroll, but I also added the dot to rerun the last command, which has been tremendously helpful for me. Let's see, we are at 22,787 minus 14,591. I was just trying to decide which is the nearest portal here. 22,912 is pretty far. Yeah, I don't know. There's actually, I think the NPCs can tell me. I was making it so early on when I was checking that's neat. Yeah, so we're right on the edge of an ice sheet, and then some grasslands in the distance. I think I can place a test NPC. And then this, yeah, I wonder if I've still got this engaged. I think I took it out. Or it's the test thing that got... It's not generate quest. It's not show debug info. I may have taken it out. But there was a way he would list the portals, nearby portals, and then I could warp to them to test out, you know, how far away they were generated from each other and so on. Anyway, so let's work on some special effects today. Though it is tempting to explore this world. It's kind of neat. If this was a volcano, that would be kind of cool. Okay. So how was everyone's holiday who celebrates? So, as I said, one of the things we want to do is build this portal blindness thing in, which we could have even used in the spawn to make sure that the player was blinded until the world had loaded in. I think I started setting up... It's going to be a full screen effect, but I kind of like having the basic setup for... Oh no, so here's... I was playing with map generation, so I've got to flip the config over. So this is where I sort of prototyped the new map generator for the previews. But that's one thing I have to flip over to... I think that... did I... see... Scripter... I reorganized all this stuff too. Portal.groovy. Okay. So we're back in the world of fractals, which had a certain amount of continuity. And because we'll be dealing with them as just kind of flat clouds this time, that might make it easier to kind of follow along with what I'm talking about. So this is going to be a full screen effect, and in fact it'll take depth and things into consideration. What I want it to kind of be like we're flying through clouds. But first I have to see if I can get the noise detail that I want here. You know, I really wanted to, oh hey, got correct, far terrain won't show them. Vehicles, like the large airships and stuff, if you can see a building, then you can see the airship. Though as far away as they are, they're tough to recognize unless they're moving. But players and other things, you only really see, I think, 2 chunks or whatever away. So within, just like objects, within, 64 meters or whatever. But you might see the effects of their being there. But as it turns out, like that far away, they're really small already. So, but yeah, as far as the far terrain will show the effects of people over there. If they're building, you'll see their buildings going up and stuff. And if they're flying a vehicle, you'll see the vehicle flying. Within the, 2.5 tile radius or whatever, that it actually shows the far buildings. Scale, it's always going to be something to balance. Okay, so we need to also load, the materials. And I really wish, oh, I haven't made the material yet. Neat. So we'll have to do that. And let's call this, we'll make a portal blindness.j3md. And let me load my other one, which was, that's where we were playing with the wood, right? So this is how I remember how to make a, this one's really going to be based on unshaded though. So let me actually go back to JMonkey engine itself and fork the unshaded material. Miscellaneous. Yeah, now I wish I could do this. I should have done it through here. Yeah, so we gotta jump down. This is something I could have set up ahead of time, so I apologize. JMonkey Engine Master. Core. Main resources. Click, 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 click. Miscellaneous. Let's just take them all. And then Mythruna, model set, scriptor, portal, matdefs, paste. We'll call it portal blindness. I wonder if it would have a problem with the dash. Whoops. Frick. Alright, so we've got those. So now I can do this again. Where were we in this mass of files that are open? Yeah, so we don't want that. Sometimes a feature is convenient and sometimes it is inconvenient. Alright, Ron, did that answer your question, basically? So we want this to be matte diffs, portal blindness. Okay, so we've got that set up, and then we actually don't care about, well, I'll open it anyway. Today, we don't actually care about the vertex shader. Just to verify that we really are seeing what we're seeing, equals vec4 1.0 0.0.0.0.1.0. This is how you debug shaders. And then so in here, we don't want this anymore. We want this, and we'll use our portal blindness. And that should work. Yep, okay. So oh, that's really red. That is no joke red. Okay. So now I will add a noise map. Texture 2D noise map. Oops. As noise map just to be nice. Even though this shader will ultimately not work at all without a noise map. But I just like to sometimes, if def, I can type, has noise map, and when I'm done, I can go and strip out all this crap I'm not using. So anywhere for now where we're using color map, let's just change it to noise map for a second. And then we can take this out. Okay, so do that, and that. Okay, so we're back to what we had before, but now we have control over it. And so now we can take out everything we don't need. Has noise map. Don't need any of this stuff. Oh wait. Okay. I don't know exactly what this is for, but it feels useful. We don't need. We do probably. I don't think we're going to want that. We might want color. We do want noise map. We do want these varyings at least. That one. And like 97,000 bits of what we're going to do is going to be in that. Oops. In here. Okay. So it should not have changed anything, but let's just make sure I didn't break something. One of the things we can't see is the... Okay, so we're not getting any errors. That's good. Okay, so now let's start making I want to do a far away cloud to make sure I have enough detail, because then the close cloud will be just the far away cloud zoomed in. And so let's say, we want all of this in here. And actually what we want is vec4 noise 1 equals, this is just the raw noise. we're going to do some higher resolution noises as well. And then yeah, I think we'll do everything in black and white for now. But essentially we want one value in the end. So set that to R, and then we'll set color. We'll do it times equal because I may factor back in this specified color. Times equal vec for value 1.0. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. I wanted to add something. Ooh. I messed something up. I wanted to make something that would automatically reload when we changed the frag file too. Noise 1. There is no noise. That's fine. Unfortunately, when you send a bad shader, it's just going to be bad. Okay, so this is our raw noise texture. And what we want to think of is combining this with a higher resolution noise. So higher resolution means it will repeat. So 0 to 1, 0 to 1, 0 to 1, 0 to 1. So like this one shrunk down. And so we'll make which means we want larger texture coordinates. So let's say we want this to repeat over 8 times. And I'm going to just real quickly switch over to noise 2 so I can show you what I'm talking about. So whoops, we've got to reset the portal so it reloads. Yeah, so see that same one repeated over and over and over and over again. And so we can combine that one with the one we already had. So if we multiply them together, for example, we get sort of these little bits of noise in with our other noise. It's not that interesting. It can become more interesting when we sort of turn these into, so let's see, 0.5, wait, no. We want to turn 0 to 1 into -1 to 1, so it's going to be times 2 minus 1, right? So that puts it in the range of plus or minus 1, and then we'll lower it down to be like 0.25. So basically it's adding itself or subtracting itself from the existing value. If we come back here and set, so if we don't add it, right, we get the original raw, sort of large scale differences, and then if we add it back, we get that same one with some variation. And so anyway, but really what we want to do is probably not repeat the same exact fractal. So we'll pick, instead of the R channel, because this is 3 fractals layered on top of each other, so the R is different, the G is different. So if we do this, we'll get more variation, or at least it won't be self-sibling. Excuse me. But I think that's too much noise. So like if we back this off to do it only half as much. We add a little detail to what was already there. So I recognize that it's not real clear. Let me add in some contrast to show what we're doing. How do I want to do that? So let's say we have the value, and if text coord .1.x is less than 0.25, we'll just let value equal noise1.r. And for now, can't type. So for a quarter of the screen, we'll have the regular old fractal, and then for the 75%, we'll have the two added together. And so this is the raw fractal. This is the one with the higher frequency noise added in. And we can do it again still. So if we have a noise 3 that we're doing at a frequency of 4. So else if we want to do this, so that'll be progressively more and each level will, and I'm going to use the blue channel. This one will make it smaller still, and so we've got lowest frequency, mid frequency, extra high frequency, right? I hope the chat's still working and that you guys aren't just stuck. Yeah, okay. But so we see, so the other thing is we see it dip down. Here it just gets very close to 0, whereas here it's actually dipping down. It's not a huge problem because I plan to set a threshold for all of this anyway. Okay, good to know. I basically, you've come back in as Oakstorm, but you were Ron Morgan before, I think, and you asked that question. I answered it, and I just was making sure I asked if I had answered it sufficiently. I think I want to try slightly higher noise from each of these, like 4 and 8 instead of 2 and 4. Let's see how that does. Okay, so see, now we're starting to get somewhere, because this has got to be the really far away stuff before it gets close to us. And so that's looking pretty good. Oh, cool. Yeah. Keep me posted about that. I'll probably watch a Let's Play on it. I'm kind of trying to limit my Let's Play videos these days because they always just make me want to play Baldur's Gate, and I took a break from Baldur's Gate this week to work on Mythruna. Let's see if we can set a threshold that leaves more gaps. And let me know if you guys need better explanation on what I'm doing here to make these more detailed. But that's looking pretty good to my eye. So I think for value, we want it to approach 0 below a certain threshold. And I think I can do that with smooth step. I can do what I want with smooth step. Let's see. Got to open a new GL. Oops. SL smooth step. I can just never remember the order of the parameters. Oh no. So yeah, I'm playing with. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it is not very deep, but what he has is cool PG voxels, so I'm biased to like it. I've been playing more MC mods lately too. Cool. Nice. Overwatch. Yeah, I watched my oldest play that for a while. Okay, so performs a smooth Hermite between 0 and 1. So yeah, so I have a threshold and a band. Basically, whatever's less than edge 0 becomes 0, and then in between it smoothly ramps up to whatever edge 1 is, and from there on it becomes 1. So you can make a nice smooth transition, and you can narrow that band of what that smooth step looks like, and this is kind of what I want for my threshold. They throw everything on. Oh, interesting. Okay, so let's get back to this for a second. So we want the value to be a smooth step. So it's edge 1, right? Edge 1, edge 0, edge 0, edge 1, and then the thing we want to smooth step. So let's try 0.25 or 0.2, 0.25, and then value. So basically anything below 0.2, 0.2 will clamp to 0. Actually, we need to. This will be 0, 1. We want to multiply it by value, because this will return values between 0 and 1 based on what the value is, but we don't want just 0 and 1. We want our original value, but we want it kind of clamped to some threshold. I really need to find a good real-time graphing web page or something, so I can show you what I'm talking about. Like, I know what I mean. Or maybe I can show you. Let's do this, and I'll show you. It'll be clamped. It'll either be dark or bright. I mean, we get like big areas of, see, it's like either on or off. Whereas if we take that value that's either on or off with some smooth stepping in between, and multiply that by our original value, we get our noise, but we get it with crisper. You'll see. Crisper gaps, right? And actually what we could do then is even smooth this by taking this value, right, which is going to be 0 when it's below 0.25, or 0 when it's below 0.2, and we could sort of so we're turning it into a 0 to 0.8 here, and then adding back 0.2. That's not really what I want to do. I want to make this, instead of going from 0.2 to value, I want it to go from 0 to 1, which means I need to multiply it by 8 over 1, 0.8 over 1. No, that can't be right. 1 over, is it 1 over 0.8? Yeah, it's 1 over 0.8. Doing math in front of other people is always fun. So 1.25. So this will hopefully smooth out. Oh, I get it. We do need to subtract 0.2 So we want this to be 0 to 0.8, then we multiply that. Okay. Let's see what I mean if it works. Yeah, okay. So we've given our nice threshold, but we get smooth shapes. That way we'll be able to see, as we get closer, we'll be able to see the more detail behind us. And so what we can do is, let me get rid of that, let me get rid of this bit. Oops, what do we, somebody doesn't like the Alt F2. Or the Alt 2. Yeah. I wonder if that's OBS complaining that it doesn't know what that means or something. Alright, so we'll just do our raw thing again. But in my editor, Alt 2 is the macro for commenting out a line. That's the way I have it set up. Alright, so what I really want to do is really quickly parameterize what these things mean. So let's make some constants. I actually haven't made a GLSL constant in a long time. How do I do core language? Oh, this is talking about the constant expression. Show me an example. I don't want to know all the crap. Okay, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. So we can say const float threshold equals 0.2, const float margin equals 0.05, and const float rescale, it would be 1.0. I think I can do this. Threshold over 1.0 divided by, so that's this rescale value. So I think just lets me more easily parameterize this stuff. Threshold plus margin value threshold and rescale. Let's see if that ends up with the same when I reload here. Nope, I screwed something up. Undefined variable threshold, so it don't, in line 126. Oh, I left the R out. Somebody online, somebody watching was yelling at me. Okay, so it's still working. And so now I can change the threshold whatever I want. So if I wanted to make those areas wider, I just go like that and redo it, and the dark areas get wider, right? And maybe that's a good value. Now we want to make it, we want to have something that makes it look like it's getting closer to us. And so we'll just try one layer at first that gets closer to us, and then when it gets to a certain distance it just resets. So we'll have some, let's see, we want to, I think it's time, and then in here I can do like this, uniform float G time. And so we want these to get smaller as time goes up. So scale equals g time SL modulo. In reality, when I do this for real, I'm going to feed it my own time, because the JMonkey engine time just goes up and up and up and up and up, which means within 15 minutes or so you start to lose resolution. Yeah, okay, so that's what I wanted. Compute value of one-time modulo, so x modulo y. Yep. X modulo y, so this mod, basically the remainder of the division. So for now we'll say every 5 seconds it's going to wrap. So it'll just be 0 to 5, 0 to 5, 0, well 0 to 4.9. And we want it to go backwards. And we'll multiply all these by scale. So it should be zooming in by making these values smaller as time goes on, then it'll wrap at 5 seconds. Let's see if I've made something really obnoxious. Yep. Oh, it's going back and forth. Okay. So that's the neat part about shaders, is that no matter what, as long as it's showing something visual, you'll get interesting values. So this scale is not doing what I want it to. Well, for one thing, it goes to 0, which is a problem. Or it goes to close to 0. So if we just make scale 1, everything's good, right? Well, let me reset. So it's crazy. Okay. So yeah, scale 1's good. The other thing, I have to center it right now. It needs to not multiply. It needs to turn the texture coordinate into relative to 0.5, 0.5, multiply that by the scale, and then add 0.5, 0.5 back. But let's just get this working like it's supposed to first. And what have I done wrong? Let's real quickly, I want to see it visually a little bit better. So let me say pos x equals g time, and change all of these for, this will help us in a second. Okay. Now let's reset so it runs again. Okay, so that is working like I expect it. Basically, we're just zooming left and right. Boy, that's got to stop, or it's gonna make me sick. And so we could make it slower by multiplying it. That all makes sense to me. So look, it's like a 2D platformer. So why then does mod g time 5.0, unless I've got the, no, I don't have the parameters backwards. So let's see, this should then repeat over and over again over a period. So we got that weird sort of, yeah, so this is working like I expected it to. So it's just how scale was being used. And so basically scale values were going strange. And so what we really want is think, because I want the scale start at 1 and then get smaller and smaller and smaller, but it probably needs to get smaller in a curve. Well, let's not worry about that right now. So let's try taking this out and just doing the mod of this, which is going to be 0 sometimes. So we want to add 1 to it. So this should be constantly zooming away from us and then every now and then jumping back in. Yeah. So this is the opposite of what we want, but it's getting closer. Okay. So now make it go the other way. I think just invert it. Yeah. But this is what I'm talking about. As it gets closer, we really want it to ramp up. I think we can do we can simulate that without getting into powers. I think we can just do a cubic, except for because we're going down. This might actually be the opposite of what I want. We'll see. Yeah, so it gets slower as we get closer. And I want it to get faster as we get closer. So it's doing it backwards because it's in the wrong domain. And so what we can do is we can put it back in the thing and then put it back again. And then do this. That doesn't seem to do what I want it to do, or it's just not doing it enough. Yeah. Again, this is where I'd like to have a graph, because sometimes even I need to visualize what I'm doing. What if we new spreadsheet? Yeah. So let's see, we've got, this is going, let's just make it let me just see if I can visualize what's going on here. Will this do what I want to do? Oops, it's going too fast. So we'll do this. We'll make it smarter. There we go. Okay. And so, oh yeah, okay. This is not really what I want. Plus I don't remember how to do a mod in Excel, so this is going to be basically 1 to 6. 1 to 6. It's never going to be anything but 1 to 6. And then, so then that's 1 over this. Oh wait. crap, equals 1.0 divided by this one. Okay. Probably we want more. So let's make this 1.1. We want more values, all the way up to 6. So this is what I'm talking about. So let's take this and graph it. Where's that? Insert image. No. Insert chart. Right. So this is. Oh, okay. So it's already. Interesting. Finish. This is fine, actually. Oops. Okay, so that's okay. We would prefer it to be a straight line. Or be or basically a curve in the other direction would work too. So can we do that? A curve in the other direction would be that would be 1.0 minus 1.0 minus this, right? So we go 0 to 0.093. We can make a chart from this one too. Yeah, so that's inverting that curve. And that means that when the scale is small, we're really close. Yeah, but it's going backwards, right? This is going to make it if we did that, it's going to make it so that we're zooming away. And it moves fast when we're close. Yes, it's still. So it makes it backwards. Okay, I'm like floundering at this point. So this is the problem we have, is it's moving. We want it to move faster when it gets closer. So we want we kind of want a linear progression down. Time is linear, so by inverting it the way we are adding that curve by doing the 1.0 to get it to go backwards. And so what we really want to do here, let's say we divide by 6.0, because we want scale to get smaller. Let me just see what this does. Okay, so now we're going backwards again. But we're moving faster when it's big, so now we can invert it. There we go. That's what we want. Slow movement far away, fast movement up close. Now I'm going to make it so that it's centered and so it's not like we're flying down into this corner. And then we'll make it fade out as it gets closer. Excuse me. Whoa. Actually, we could make it fade now. So when scale starts to approach 1.0, or wait, we've got 1.0 is when it's the farthest away, right? I'm glad I'm glad this is entertaining. I really am. I sometimes never know if I'm just losing everybody with what I'm doing. Okay, so this is the normal size, and then we zoom in. And so as it zooms in, scale approaches. Let's make a time basis that is our 0 to 5. So it's going to be 0 to 5, and just make sure I didn't break anything. Okay, so it gets faster as it gets closer. Okay, good. Boink. And so right now, it is getting to be almost 5 time-wise, which means that it's actually, 5 divided by 6 is getting, yeah, almost to, it's getting past 1, so that's interesting. Like if we clamp this to 1, wait, 1 minus scale. Yeah, so it's getting very close to 0. Yeah, because this is getting very close. This scale gets very close to 1. When this is, 4.9, so this is 5.9 divided by 6. That's very close to 1, and that makes it very close to 0. And so then we can have it fade out by taking our value and smooth stepping it, or multiplying it by, we don't want to, yes, we're going to invert the smooth step, basically. Value, or let's say, let's call it fade, so that it's a little easier to, fade is going to be the smooth step, smooth step between 1.0 and 0.9, say, of time. And then value times equals fade. So now it should fade out as it gets closer to us, or be completely busted. Or I've got it completely backwards, right? Yes, I do. No, I don't. I want it to be 1. I should be able to reverse those values to make the fade. But now it's doing exactly the opposite of what I want. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. See, because if I flip these around, that's also not going to do what I want. Or it is. So if I feel like we had a let's just make half of it. So we can see what's going on compared to the regular. Oh no. What? Text coord1.x. If Text cord. Oh, text cord. What I like about this feature is that I was about to pull out a piece of gum, but you guys aren't going to appreciate that. It's that I'm doing this portal blindness effect because it's an engine restriction that I can't load in the terrain instantly, right? So there's going to be a period of time where it's better if you're blinded for some game reason. But I also find it interesting because it adds a game mechanic that wouldn't have otherwise been there. If you take a portal, there's going to be a couple seconds where you're blinded, and maybe you don't want to teleport into the middle of a bunch of mobs. Or you at least want to be fully healed up before you teleport to any place new because you might hit some restrictions. Okay, so yeah, so this fade is 100% backwards. Yeah, it's actually behaving like it is not behaving exactly like I expect. Oh. Jeez. I'm an idiot because this is in seconds. So time is 0 to 5 the way I've got it set up. And so only in the last, so this should make it so completely backward, like it'll like be dark until we get there kind of thing. Yeah, so see, we've got this, it's blah, 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 so it's exactly backwards. And that is what I expected it to be. So flip it around, flip the smooth step around so that it's 1 up until 4.5. And now it will do what I want it to do. And it'll fade out as we go in. And so we get closer and closer and closer, and it fades out, and then the other one. And we can have it also fade on the front side. So we could, yeah, this is good. We're just going to make it the whole thing so it's clear what I'm doing. So as we get closer, 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 and it, it didn't fade out. Did I not reset? Okay, something is wrong. Let me put back the... Oh, I took the whole thing out. I needed to take the if statement out. Okay. Let's do this. Okay, so it should fade out as we get closer. And so because there'll be other stuff behind it, we'll then see that. As it gets closer, it just kind of fades, and we'll see whatever's behind that particular thing. Let me also fix the positioning real quick so that it's centered, so that our zoom is centered. So we want pos minus vec to 0.5, 0.5. So we make it relative to the center. Then we have to add in back to the different scales. So this should make it like we're flying through the center, if I've done it right. No, I've screwed something up. Token P. Did I... Oh. Random garbage in the... I may have to go back and watch the video to see if I did that or the editor did that. Yeah, doing some shader stuff. I'm trying to implement portal blindness, which is sort of the effect you'll see as you're traveling through a portal, and then it will sort of linger in your field of vision as you portal into someplace until the world loads in, and then as you know, it starts to clear, and it'll be a post-processing effect, so it'll be mixed in with whatever imagery has already loaded based on depth. So now I got to do the multiple layers. I also may, let me change the threshold a little so there's a bit more black. Yeah, so now we potentially have more space to fly through depending on the fractal. I can kind of show maybe what a second layer would look like, but I kind of need to parameterize. I think I want that margin to be wider though. Like these, as we get closer, these edges look too crisp. So I will change this margin to 0.1. And we should have like, oh, that made it worse. How did that make it worse? Okay, something I've done in the math is wrong. So between threshold and threshold burst margin will go 0 to 1. Oh, because it moved to the threshold. So let's do this. It wasn't that it got worse, more crisp. It was just that the holes got bigger. Yeah, I don't know if I like the way the curve is going, but that's okay. So what we want to do is include an offset that is based on the whole part of this. So so that each time we have a new layer, it's slightly different. So we're basically repeating the same texture over and over again. I may want to make this a little bigger. So it's got like 50% coverage. So we're more likely to find holes to fly through, basically. Kind of want it to fade in from far away too. So we'll make this fade 1, fade 2, and this will be classic ordering 0.0 to 0.5. So times fade 2. So now it'll fade in from far away too. Yeah. And we can stretch that out a little if we want to. But the point is, all I'm doing here is finding a particular value for a layer, and really we want to be parameterizing this stuff so that I can request multiple layers at different levels, and then this would be sort of a loop or an unrolled loop in here to access those different layers that would sort of repeat potentially. Well, I mean they will, because I'm using a pre-canned texture. But for example, let me just randomly add a little bit of stuff to these, and well, I mean, you'll just see it'll shift it over. So like we've got a, oh, I did that in the wrong place. I needed to do that. After, okay, yeah, we need, anyway, it needs to be an offset at this level. So what are the parameters? We want to say for a particular part of the screen, we're going to just use the same texture coordinate. That's fine. We want to say, what do we want to pass in? We want to pass in the scale and the layer. So float scale. And then everything else, float scale, no. We want to pass in time. Then we can add values to time for different layers. So then everything from here on, and we return value. I'm thinking, these repetitive actions help me think. I could have unindented the whole thing in one blow, but I like to think for a second. So let's make, I ought to be able to say value get layer sample time. And that'll bypass all this stuff. I don't really need to comment it out. It should still behave the same. Yep. Okay, so that's time. But we also want to say a layer, because we want each of these layers to be a little different. And so let me comment out all this stuff. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, so we also want to pass a layer. Layer needs to be like, it's going to be the offset into the fractal, so it can be whatever we want it to be. So 0.0 should give like, well, let me show you. So float layer. So we're going to use this to figure out an offset into the fractal so that every layer is not different, not the same rather. And how I calculate that value is going to be based on time in a different way than we're doing it inside the function. So 0 should give us what we've got now. I'm trying to decide if I just want to factor it in directly, or I think I want to use it to look up a noise value, to be honest. Or we could be even more flexible and factor in the offset. So when it's 0, that way we could look up. I'm trying to think how I want to do this. I know. No, we're going to make it just a layer value, because we're going to use that as a... I'm going to be repeating this command over and over again, so I don't want to have to... I don't want to have to constantly be doing this calculation outside. So we're going to make another texture call that's going to be back to like somewhere in the middle, and then the layer value. Okay, so then we have this offset that we can use. And then we'll calculate an offset for that so that I can move it around if I want to, but it's going to be basically XY. XY times 2. So set of 0 to 1, 0 to 2, and then minus back to 1.0, 1.0, so it'll be vector 2 that's from -1 to 1, and then we can just add it into every one of these, I think. But do we want to add it in, hold on, add it in before or after the scale? I think after. We'll get more variation that way, I think. Or will we? Given the way we're using this fractal, I'm not sure it matters. So at any rate, this should give us something different. Oh, that's definitely different. Oh boy. Oops. Nope, float values up there. Somewhere down here I'm screwing up. Yeah, that's what it is. Oops. And I removed too many things. I think that's all that's wrong. We'll see. Hey, if I can get us flying through clouds for... yeah, so see, we're back to flying through clouds. They're different clouds now. And so, if I take this... So we want value 1, let's say... let's actually pass in g time itself, and that way we can say we want g time 2 seconds beyond for the second value, and so then we'll make this part call this raw time. So we're passing in the raw time, and then so float value equals value 1 plus value 2. Does GLSL have a clamp? pretty sure it does. And then it's the value min max. That's what I wanted it to be. Cool. Value 0.01.0. Alright, let's see how badly we screwed things up now. Yes. Okay, so this isn't exactly what we want. Because why is it doing what it's doing? Okay, let me do some other trick here. We will say if text coord.x is less than 0.25, else if text coord.x is less than 0.75, so in the center we'll do our combined values, and on the edges we'll do either value 1 or value 2. So hopefully we can kind of see what's going on. Debugging shaders is always a frick. And then I still spelled it wrong. At least it doesn't take long to load. Text coord. What did it complain about? Oh, text coord 1. Alright, let's try again. Looks like a cloudy map zooming in. Yeah. The texture, okay, so the texture is not generated. Well, I pre-generated the texture. It's a cloud, it's a multi-layer cloud texture from Photoshop or Photopea or whatever, just their tileable noise. Okay, so we've definitely got two different. I just don't know. Value should be between 0 and 1 already, but perhaps it's not. No, smooth step. Smooth step should be making it between 0 and 1. It's just not combining in the way that I expected. Like, the dark is coming through the light. Let me narrow the band of what we're seeing here and I'll show you what I mean. So now we just have the real sliver in the middle that's the two combined. And it's not adding them together the way I expected. We should see both sets of values. So they've done something wrong, or I've misinterpreted the clamp. X, min, max. Oh, that should work. Just make sure. Yeah, see, the black is getting added in somehow. It's like some of the values are negative, but they should never be negative. So we will just make doubly sure for a second that nothing ever goes negative here. Oh, they must sometimes come out negative. Oh, if they were negative, then we multiply them, they'll just still be negative. That's why. Of course, nearer values should probably factor higher than the far values, and a certain threshold should always override Yeah, the near value. So maybe what we want is, so first of all, let me put the clamp back. It should be fine now. Okay. Yeah, so we want, when the value is sufficiently high, we want to prefer, when the value is sufficiently high, we want to prefer the nearer value. So is nearer value 1 or value 2? Well, it depends. That's the problem. So kind of what we want to do is multiply by time. Would that be enough? I mean, that's going to make everything super bright, so just hold for a moment. But you'll definitely see the near stuff over the far stuff, right? And then we should be able to divide back by the number of layers times 5. Value equals value divided by 10, I think. Or we divided too much. But what we're doing here, so time will be 0 to 4.9. We're multiplying. No, that's not what we want. We do want it to be stronger as time goes on, but I think we'll do that by adding time. And that's what I thought I was doing. And still too dark in the middle. Because I think I actually might need to return a vec2. I don't want a straight mix. I want... See, it would be easier if I always knew the closer one, but I only know at a certain pixel value that I've asked for 1 layer and 2 layers, and I don't know which layer is ahead of the other because they wrap, right? Let me widen that so that we can see it a little better. So let's do 0.4 to 0.6 port over. And so what I want to do is bias the values that are closer to us. But let's add. In fact, these could probably be closer together. Let's set them a second apart instead of 2 seconds apart. See what happens. I mean, that's changing a different problem, but yeah, so these two get real close to each other. They're not okay because we're using the same offset for one thing. So what if we just arbitrarily pick 2 different layers and then Reset. I just want the two layers that we're mixing to look completely different. Yeah, so now we've got two separate layers. We want the nearer one to have more of a bias. As it gets closer to us, it needs to get brighter, so we need to add back in. Let's see, let's say if we add as it gets closer, scale gets higher. So what if we add scale? It'll get ridiculous as it gets closer, but one will definitely take precedent over the other. Oh no, it's actually backwards. Yeah, okay, so then what we really want to do is time divided by 5.0. Boink. So it gets brighter as it gets closer. No. Oh yeah, those do because these are on top. It's actually a problem that we can't sort these. Although maybe it's less of a problem when it's not in this window like this. We know that they're being combined correctly, so let's just leave these out just so we get the full effect. I mean, it's kind of working. Maybe what I need to be doing is darkening them when they're farther away. Anyway, perhaps it will be a little clearer if I add in a couple more of these. Actually, it's like this I want to do. So let's just randomly put some stuff in. I'm going to 3, 4, 5. So then value 1 plus value 3 plus value 4 plus value 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh. So that should cover the full range. We should get all of our layers. But you see what I mean. I need to be able to say the nearer one does not get mixed with the one behind it. And so I need to be able to sort of factor in a mix value almost, but I want the mix to be we could also lower our threshold. But basically adding is not what I want to do here. I want to take the nearer one and use it instead of the further one. Is there a way to do that if we always have I think if there's a way Because the other way to do this would be to have each of the layers take over for the next one. So that value 1 is always the closest one, value 2 is always the farthest one, and then value 1 will play from here to here, and then switch layers to do from here to here, and then switch layers to do from here to here, but it's always closer than this one, which is closer than this one. Whereas right now I'm letting them all slide and wrap. But, so how to do that? So we would want raw time I mean, it's a problem, right? Because I'm adding them all together. I need to make value 1 override value 2 and so on, but I need them to always then be in order. And so then G time here needs to be always between 0 and 1, but then when it's between 1 and 2, it needs to be, I need to figure out how I'm going to calculate these here. So if we factor out period, okay, I'm trying to see if I can get this done in the next 18 minutes. So let me think for a second, and I'll just put these in. Right, so we'll just get one layer for a second. And so it's not too bright, although it is awfully bright. That's because we're adding that back in. We don't need to do that because we're going to do it a different way. Okay, so, oops. Yes. This is the one I really want. Okay. Okay, so we're back to our regular stuff. And if we have 2 layers, we basically want this guy to cycle through only the nearest values. Or the farthest, or whatever, right? And so he wants his period to be, can we just do so this is mod G time 5, but we really want this to be based on 2, whoops, yeah. Right, so we actually don't need this anymore. That's old stuff. But we want, so raw time instead of cycling between 0 and 0.5, we want it to cycle between 0 and 1, or 0, you know, basically base time, this is called base time. I don't know what else to call it. So base time and then down here, instead of just passing G time in, this is the inner time. Let's make this 1.0 and then 2.0, oops. Okay, so that will make it just go, oh, frick. Too few parameters in call. Something's not happy. 1, oh. Because I added them instead of did a comma. So now we'll have, yeah, so this is just pulling over from the far train over and over again. Okay. Now we should be able to do, let's say we're just going to repeat the same fractal over and over again, and so this one then would be 1.0 plus that, and then we can add those two together. And so they're swapping off from one another. And so as long as we base our index here off of some factor of time, but it has to be base offset equals g time divided by 5, I think floor is what I want. Base offset plus 0.2. No, each one needs to be, they need to hand off, because this is still going to have the same problem as it's just the same little snippet repeating. Whereas we want the one in the back to move over to the one in the front. So base offset needs to be different for each one of them, but in a way that it hands off to the next based on time. So for the first 5 seconds, or for the first second, for the first 1 second, we want base offset to be, can I just do this? No, what's this going to do for me? Okay, they're both the same. That's not what I want either. What I want is for, like, let me put it back to something that's sensible. So they're both doing this, but really what should happen is the next one should take over 1001, 1002. This is still not really doing what I want. I guess it is. This one never fades. That's the way it's supposed to be. But this one should take over for the previous one after 1 second. And so that's why we want, for the first second, we want this one to be 0 or whatever value it's going to be, and then move to something else. Then for the second second, we want this one to be what was here. So the value moves over these 4. And I'm just having trouble thinking of the math off the top of my head here. So let's say, yeah, so from 0 to 5 seconds, we want this to be g time divided by 1. Oops, that's supposed to be floor. Let's first of all, yeah, so we had base offset. That's the right idea. Base offset will... No, that's not the right idea. And time needs to be continuous, so divided by 1.0. Not mod, floor. They're each their own thing. But for the first second, so let's say time is 0. This will be 0. Okay, so what I need to do actually is subtract 1. Right. So when time is 0.5, say, this will be 0. This will be whatever the previous value is. So minus 0.1 or whatever. And then these need to be multiplied by some, so that there's 0 to 1. Let's see what that does. Uh-oh. Yeah, see, we're getting closer. Yeah, one trades over for the other. And so we ought to be able to make, we ought to be able to get rid of this 1 plus value 1 plus value 2, and like, say if we see a value 1, actually I think value 1 is probably the farthest one. Put this back to C. I can't tell actually. I need to make them more farther apart. So let's put this as 2 and 2. This is gonna not do what I want either. I can't tell if value 1 is the far. I think value 2 is closer, right? This is always a bigger version. Well, I guess they would have to be the same. So let's put them on the same basis for a minute, so that it's the same layer both times. It's not though. Yeah, it is. Same layer both times. And yeah, value 2 is always the closer one. So we want to prefer value 2. Part of the reason I'm having trouble thinking is because I have to pee. So what do I have to do? So if I want to prefer value 2, first of all, let's put this back. Minus 1.0. We ought to be able to filter all these through and then do similar math. So this is 2, 3, 4. Minus 2, looking back in time. Okay, so this will give us all of our layers back. It'll still look like garbage. But it should always look like there's layers approaching us until they disappear. And so now, what we want to do is, oops, random 2 that got inserted there. What we want to do is have each new value override the previous one. And I think, what do we want to do? We want to say value equals value 1, and then value equals value 2 times, let's just do it hardcore for now. What is, let me look up step again. Regular step, I think is the edge and then the value. I better look it up. I really want to get this working before I stop. So, yep, edge and then value. So, if it's below, so value plus equals, oops. If it's below 0.1, we'll just consider it 0.1. So what this does is if it's below 0.1, it'll be 0, and if it's above 0.1, it'll be 1. And so we kind of create a hard threshold for each of these. So 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. That's all we have. 0, wait, 0, 1. Oh, yeah, 0, 1, 2, 3. 5. Okay, we do have, yeah, 5. Okay. And so 3, 4, 5. Let's see if that does what I want. Does not feel like it changed anything. Bump up the values to max, yeah, right. So this is not really doing what I want because why? I want it to completely take over for the previous value, basically, and I'm still adding them together. I don't want to add them together. I want to mix them in such a way. I want them. What I want to do is if we want to, it's not a mix. I don't think it's a mix and an add. Let's do it with branching because I think that'll be clearer what I want to say. If value 2 is greater than 0.1, then value equals value 2. If value 3 is greater than 0.1, then value equals value 3. If value 4 is greater than 0.1, then value equals value 4. And if value 5 is greater than 0.1, then value equals value 5. So basically, any next layer that is not transparent, well, it's like a high enough value, it will override whatever was previous. Otherwise, we probably want to add it, but so let's do this. Right, this is what I wanted. Yeah. Right, but we want a little bit of fade. But now it looks like we're flying through clouds, right? That's what I want. And then, yeah, so now that I have that, I can smooth step between the edges a little bit, blend the edges, make everything a little bit transparent. So I can actually blend in a little bit of the old value. So for example, so for each of these, we could say plus Probably we want a smooth step. Well, let's say we always take a little bit of the previous value. Value because value 2 plus value times 0.01, just to let a little bleed through, right? Well, I wasn't using the step function, but well, I guess I did, right? Oh yeah, it's up there, right? But it's edge and then value, so I looked it up, right? The edge is if it's greater than, but the problem is that's not the right thing that I want to do because I don't want to add it. I never want to add it. I want it to replace, and so basically, to do step, I would have to use step twice. Once multiplied by this value and the other one inverted multiplied by the current value. So that if it was below 0.1, I want only the existing value, and if it's above 0.1, I want only the new value. But that's basically what these if statements were doing, and probably in a modern GPU it doesn't matter. But now that I've added back the original value at 0.01, we should still see a little blending so that it's not pure. That's too much. That is too much, even at 0.01. Oh, because I added instead of multiplied. This is what happens when you got to pee. All right. Calm down. Calm down. All right. All right. So we should get a little bit of blend, a little bit of bleed. Not enough. Let's up the bleed a little bit. Okay, so we will prefer the current value, but we will blend in a little bit of the old one too. Yeah, so now we can see through the clouds, right? This is kind of the effect I'm going for. It needs to be blended at the edges a little better. So I need to add in, so this value here needs to be a smooth step. Or a mix maybe. Yeah, can we mix this with mix this. Wait. Let me think what I want to do. I want that to be 0. So I want to mix 0. Or, let's see, let's look up mix. I think I could just replace this with mix. Value 1, value 2, and then the mix. So yes, we want 0 or value, or is it value or 0? We're going to add 0. Wait. So what I want to have happen is at the edges, I want to let more of the underlying one come in. Yeah, so that's not what I want to do here. This is always allowing some transparency through. And what we want is to mix this with the previous value based on value 2. Having to replicate this a bunch of times to make it look right. But man, that whole layering thing and having to consider each layer as a time slice that then slides, that's kind of the backwards things you get when you're doing shaders. Yeah, I know about Shader Toy. Okay, so this is a little better. It's showing some stuff through. I still think the edges are too harsh. And so I'm not exactly sure it's doing what I want to do. Because essentially at the edges I would have expected it to be sort of non-existent. Right, so when value 2 is 0, oh, this is why. So if we change our threshold a little bit, it's not reversed, it's that I already clamped the edge to 0.1, which is already going to be a pretty harsh edge. And so I need to actually scale that mix value a little bit. Oh, see, now we've got not at all what I want. And the far away stuff is not needs to fade in slower, first of all. This isn't really doing what I want either, because as we get closer, we're seeing too much behind. It's doing it, so it does feel like it's reversed, right? And maybe it is. But I thought it was first value gets, basically goes from first value to second value based on the third value. From a linear between x and y using a. So it should be at 0, it should be this value. This is the pain part of but let us make this plus 0.5. So we'll shift the period of the mix. It's really probably what we want. We want to multiply it. Do you need the plus value part? Yes. Well, so that's making it transparent at all. But yeah, let's see if we can get it just transparent at the edges. We're definitely on the right track, right? And so the problem is, so let me make a float combine layers. Float layer 1, float layer 2, so that I can stop having to repeat all this, right? Return. So either layer 1, which is previous layer, layer 2, layer. Now I'll be able to only change it only in one place. Layer 2. So we'll mix in layer 2. All right. So we should say combine layers value 2. So 3, 4, 5, and if I didn't mistype something, we should get exactly the same thing we've got now. Yep. Okay, and I want that far fade in to be a little slower than it is. So that is this value here. Let's change that to be 1.0, so it'll fade in. Just that really far one was coming in too harsh, so now it'll come in. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so that's good. And so then if we go back to our combine layers and we do the harsh version, if layer 2 is greater than 0.01, return layer 2. Else return layer 1. Right, so that's the hard, no mix at all version. And so from here we could try to mix based on the values. We could see what happens there. And so we'll only combine them. And so we want to mix layer to layer 2 based on some factor of layer 2. So let's say 3.0. Oh no! Did I, oh yeah, layer 1. It's like 2 of you have stuck around. Okay. Now see, it's acting like it's going backwards. Acting like mixes backwards from what I expect. So what if I flip these around? Oh no, no, this is backwards. Yeah. All right. But we're getting a lot of adding together that should not happen. Or did we decide that these layers were not always clamped? I thought I clamped, yeah, because so the value should always be between 0 and 1. We could do, if it's greater than 0.5, then always return layer 2. Else if layer 1 is, or layer 2 is greater than 0, mix the two together based on layer 3. Layer 2, so layer 2 divided by 0.5. See what that does. Yeah, that's closer to what I want. Right? I'm wondering if it should move faster. I still feel like that far stuff is coming in too quickly. So maybe we make that come in over 2 seconds instead of 1 second. Still kind of flickers in, doesn't it? Yeah, with the using this as depth. It's just there's that flash in the background that I don't like. And Is it because of the... I wonder if it's... Anytime this is going to be greater than 1, I wonder if that's a problem. Oh, 0.1, or yeah, 1.0. Or let's just make it really ridiculous, because if I'm thinking correctly, yeah, so that doesn't actually change that. It would have made it worse if it was a period problem. But there's a little bit of a bounce there. That I don't like in the back. I don't know if you see it's like flashing in the back. But the clouds are looking really good coming at you. Probably we could change the curve a little too on those on that mix. So can we just smooth step just between 0 and 1? And yeah, I think it blends a little better. I need to track, I'm going to do this on my own time, but I need to track where that flash is coming in on the back layer. Let's see if we can speed things up. First of all, I don't think we use this base offset, so I can just get rid of it. Right, yep. And so we want scaled time equals g time. And then I can replace all of these with scaled time. I think this, okay, I'm going to skip, replace. And so then so this should give us the same we just have right now. Boink. Okay, but now I should be able to say this times 2.0, and it should give us a faster. Yeah, that's more of the speed I'm talking about. And actually then that far bit kind of looks a little bit like lightning. And we could actually what do I want to say here? We want to so each of these values has an implied distance. And the implied distance is this base time plus this time. So essentially, yeah, each layer. Yeah, so value one's distance from us is this plus this. Or minus, technically. Where I'm going with this is I thought I could potentially just multiply value by the distance. But I want to add color, but I want the color to change as it gets closer. But anyway, I mean, you guys can kind of see how a simple noise texture can make something kind of cool. I could even have it, move left, right, up, and down over time as well, based on pulling one of these fractal values out. Yeah, so I'll have to track down what's going on with that back flash. But I think it has to do with just a guess. Let's put these at 0 and see what happens. This is kind of how I would track it down. I would just watch that last one. Okay, so that last one's kind of doing what it's supposed to do. Okay, so then we put this one back in and see what happens. Oh, it's because it changes layers right. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I wonder then if it's a 0 threshold problem. Like, what if we did this minus 1.0? Oh, it's because of... Why am I dividing by 1? That makes no sense. Dividing by 1 makes no sense at all. And otherwise, I suspect that the issue is... yeah, because even this is not... This is flashing. Yeah, and I think it's because we're doing minus 1. So what if we did plus 1 over here, and then like that? I'm trying to see. It's hard to tell when one layer passes over the other. But what if we do that for all of them? Get rid of that useless divide by 1. So again, I'm like a dog with a bone at this point. So we want this one to be... I want this one to be plus 5, this one to be plus 4, this one to be plus 3, this one to be plus 2, and this one to be plus 1. I think that's actually a problem because basically we'll never hit 0, and that's where our little flash is going to come from, maybe. Because everything else is based on this. Oh, we don't need these divides anymore. So what if we did 4, 3, 2, 1, 0? Nope, it's still doing it. It's like one layer fades in and out. And is that... Anyway, to me that's the only problem. I also want to color it based on total distance, so that the nearer layers have a slightly different color. Actually, that's easy. That is pretty easy. If we say well, we would have to combine the layers at the color level. We couldn't do it at the end. We'd have to combine colors at each of those layers. Anyway, it's already 11:30. Man, I'm sorry. Thanks for thanks for hanging out with guys. But this is close to what I want, right? That little flash in the background I'll have to deal with. I want to make the colors, sort of, cyan and purple and magic-y looking, and then I can put a background color behind all of this, like a dark blue or something that they fade in from. Yeah, and so that's where I'm going to end it. Let me go ahead and do the thanks. Boy, I just realized that was starting to give me vertigo. Now that I'm not flying into the screen, the whole room is going weird. Thanks. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks. Beep, beep, beep.